I'm just now learning that the Hatman is an entity that other people experience after watching a video about Benadryl abuse. My experience seems a little different from most with the Hatman. There was a time in my life when I started experiencing sleep paralysis. I used to try and lucid dream, which is where I think this all started. But I woke up one morning laying on my stomach paralysed, and I see the Hatman holding a leash with two hellhounds or black wolves to the right of him. I did everything in my power to try to squirm and move, but I couldn't budge. The more I tried to fight, the more the dogs would growl and start salivating. The Hatman was pushing my back down into the bed, which made me feel even more helpless. This seemed like it lasted 10 minutes or more, and I felt like it would never end, until I calmed myself down and showed no fear. As I started to show no fear, the Hatman would transform into a sweet, short, elderly man in a straw hat with two Dalmatians. Him phasing back and forth based on my emotional state lasted for a few minutes, and finally I broke out of the dream. The fear I had was indescribable. The closest way I could describe the emotion would be the feeling that the world as we know it is about to be destroyed. I'm not a very superstitious person, and I'm not religious, but I feel like this is a real being. For any scientific explanation, it's always, "Oh, you saw Freddy Krueger when you were younger." And yes, I did see Freddy Krueger as a kid, but the Hatman didn't seem anything like Freddy Krueger. If anything, to me, he was closer to the devil in the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Because of the dog. But he didn't seem like that character either. It was just like a spirit made of pure darkness. I've just now learned that many others have experienced this, and I don't think this is just something I imagined in my mind. I've always felt that way, and seeing that other people have seen the same thing makes me really wonder if there's more to our reality than we can comprehend. I have no idea what the Hatman wanted, but my experience with him transforming from something sinister to something good tells me that maybe the Hatman is fear itself, or himself. And maybe the lesson in that was that the fear only exists if you allow it to. Anyway, now that I know you all exist, I'm eager to hear your stories, and I'm wondering if anyone else has had the same experience with the Hatman and dogs. I've only seen him once, and this was about 10 years ago. The first time I ever witnessed the Hatman, I was 5 years old. I'm now 28. For a quick background here, I loved watching VeggieTales when I was a little guy. I had a Larry Boy plushie, and I was a huge mama's boy. I had a dream one night at the age of 5, and I was standing in the middle of a four-way intersection, and nothing more, just roads, no grass, no tree, nothing. As I stood in the intersection, I felt normal. I looked down the end of each road trying to figure out where I was. The end of the first road had nothing. The second road had my VeggieTales Larry Boy plushie. The third had my mother, and the fourth road had a very tall silhouetted man with a tall top hat. I was immediately scared and turned back for the plushie that was now in many pieces shredded. I then tried to go to my mother, but she was now laying on the ground not moving and unresponsive. I looked back down the road and started running and crying, but he popped up in front of me, and I was frozen in fear. He knelt down right in my face, but he had no facial features because he was so dark. He was speaking to me, but it was just incoherent mumbling with a whispery wheeze. Then I woke up crying, and one of my uncles came into the room and was helping me settle down a bit, helping me understand that it was all just a dream, and everyone is fine, including my plushie. As days, months, years went on, I fully forgot it ever even happened for a long while. I always thought that it was just a crazy dream of mine, which it was, but I had no idea that other people had similar dreams about this individual or entity until I was about 15 to 18 years old. I had the strangest emotional roller coaster when I heard the words, Hatman. My brain immediately snapped back to the memory of that dream, even 10 plus years later. It was like it just happened again. Never have seen him again, but that's my experience with it. My husband worked as a government contractor for a company that sends him all over the world. For a few years, my daughter and I would travel with him. He was usually gone for months at a time. One of his business trips was to Bremerton, Washington. We were put into an apartment called Olympic Village. It was rented out to companies like this. They were okay, fully furnished, better than a hotel, especially for that length of time that we usually stayed. The apartment we had was on the ground floor. It was decorated well, and the furniture wasn't too worn. Nothing seemed or felt weird. I usually can read vibes of places where I go. I'm not sure how to explain it. I don't think I'm psychic, just maybe in tune with my surroundings. Things seemed pretty normal for the first few days. I spent most days there since I didn't have a car, just playing my video games or watching TV. One night my husband came home to the apartment, and I had dinner ready and set out. We all sat down at the table to eat, having the normal conversations people do, like, "How was your work?" type stuff, when all of a sudden I felt something touch my thigh. I didn't respond to it because I wasn't sure exactly what had just happened, so I continued eating. A few moments later, it happened again. It felt familiar, like my old 10-pound chihuahua was begging for food. I looked down thinking I would see a dog looking up at me, but there wasn't anything there. My instinct had been to move him down with my hand to get him to stop begging. I laughed out loud and said to my husband, "I keep feeling like there's a dog there. I felt something jump up at my leg and I almost pushed it down." My husband said, "That's weird, because I feel like there is one here too." He told me he was on his way to the bathroom around 3 AM. As soon as he walked out and turned to walk down the hall, he saw a small shadow sitting there still looking at him. He jumped back startled, and it disappeared. I was in shock, because I didn't expect anyone to feel the same thing. It seemed weird. I am very connected to animals. I have always been my whole life. Dogs and I seem to have a very deep bond, almost on a spiritual level. About a week later, it was a weekend, and my husband and I were watching TV. We were both on our own couch. Mine was the large sofa, so I was stretched out under a blanket. Almost without any thinking, I went to readjust my position. In the moment, I thought my dog was laying in the crease of the back of my knee, where my legs bend. I was being careful not to squash him or move him, because I felt a weight on the blanket. I looked, and there was nothing there. I felt weird. I told my husband what had happened. Everything was normal for a while after that. I hadn't felt the dog since the couch. One night I woke up and had to go to the bathroom. I am night blind and I wear glasses, but I decided to just go without putting them on. The bathroom had a window, and a light from outside shined through with just enough light that I could see once I got close and around the corner. So I headed down the hall, sliding my hand slowly across the wall so I could feel where to go. I was looking straight ahead, but it was pitch black. I came to the corner, with my hand still tracing the side, and I seen something. It was darker than a dark hall, but the darkness blocked the light from the window. The light traced a body. Its height brought my head to look instinctively up towards where a face would be. I froze in terror, gasped, and jumped back, scared because I thought it was a real person. Where the head would be, it looked like he was wearing a top hat. This dark figure seemed to be close to 6'5" tall. Once I realised it wasn't human, I quickly rushed past it to turn on the bathroom light. With the light on, I seen that nothing was there.